So now let's go to policies. And for those of you who don't know, you know, I say Jane, but as I said in the beginning, Dr. Jane Sanders.
Jane, yeah.
Has a doctorate in leadership studies and politics and education, and was the president of Goddard College and Burlington College for a while. So you have this deep background in it. You were, for a while, chief of staff for your husband when he was in the House.
Unpaid, yeah.
Okay. And you worked as, again, unpaid press secretary at different times in his career. So who's more liberal, you or Bernie Sanders?
You know, I don't think either of us would describe ourselves as liberal. I mean, progressive is more, I always think of liberal as being more willing to really fight for the poor, but not really take on the upper class. At least that's been the liberal Democrats in the last 3 decades. It seems that there's a way that we want to protect the poor, but we don't really want to upset the apple cart, as you say. So progressive, which means...
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Because
my own analysis, it probably doesn't hold any water back.
No, it's important for us to get a sense of what you mean by liberal and progressive. I would have thought liberal was to the left of progressive, but you're saying no, liberal of the last 3 decades haven't taken on the rich. That's why you guys aren't calling yourselves
liberals. Or the corporations. Liberals. They've actually, you know, taken money. I think it's diluted their effectiveness. That's one of the things that has concerned me about the direction of the Democratic Party over the last few decades, that it's become more centrist and become more open to corporate interests and more dependent on their money. Now, individuals, there are a lot of progressive Democrats elected throughout every part of the country. But that's something that worries me. And I think that if you were FDR, you'd be saying this is going in the absolute wrong direction.
I've traveled all over this country with the senator, and I can tell you when he was in Baltimore with Dr. Jamal Bryant and walking those streets in the African-American community to see where the tragedy happened against Brother Freddie Gray, Senator Sanders didn't shrink from that. People were lining up, everyday people saying to Senator Sanders, we need jobs, we believe in you, thank you for making this run. And during that meeting with the African-American ministers, they were talking about not only the fact that Black lives matter, but Black prosperity matters, Black uplift matters. The cause is right, and the time is now. Senator Sanders stood up when he didn't have to stand up as a young man. The way to define the character of a person is what they do when the cameras are not on, what they do when they don't benefit from it personally. He is a champion for civil rights and social justice in this country. The time is right and the cause is now. Senator Sanders understands that we as a country, Black, white, Asian, Native American, young, seasoned, Muslim, Christian, Jew, Gentile, atheist, all of us together, all of us together, all of us together. And when he talks about running for president of the United States of America, you don't hear him say the word I, he says we. This race is about us, we the people, and we need a champion like Senator Bernie Sanders. And to my sisters in the audience, it's been a long time coming, but we deserve our whole damn dollar. Say whole damn dollar.
What got you so motivated to join Bernie's campaign and his fight?
Well, everything that I've done over the years has been about the people, be it from the different organizations I'm on the board of, taking across multiple platforms and issues, everything from housing to HIV/AIDS to drugs to nonpartisan voting, get out the vote. Just everything that I've been a part of is just, I understand that the intersectionality of what's going on with people and that we need to be engaged. And so if you're caring about the environment, all of these different things that you have to participate, just start someplace. And so I've as a New Yorker and someone who can multitask, I've been a part of a lot of different things. And this is a candidate who I've looked at for a long time. I've admired him for a long time. I've seen him out there doing his thing. And when he decided to run for president, And the people responded in the way that they did, not because of the mass media, not because of corporate media, not because he has a household name or a brand name, but specifically because of his message that he's had integrity with for dozens of years. I was so moved to be able to use whatever platform I had to just amplify that voice, because I'm always trying to amplify the people's voice, and I was seeing that that wasn't being heard, that there was demonstrations going across the nation, marches happening. People were going, you know, the only reason why we were still talking about him is because people were going, I have $3, I'll give it to him. No super PACs, nothing. Like, just literally just watching that and being so moved by it and not seeing it get the credence and the credit that it should. And so that's what I joined the movement, because I think what he's saying is really, really important, and what he's talking about, his stances on the environment, on LGBTQI issues, on feminism, on foreign policy, on all of these different issues that are critical for us. We need to make sure people hear that, because when people hear him, when he has a debate, people listen and they are moved, and they switch allegiance, or they decide to vote for the first time, or they decide to vote for the first time in a long time. And that's what we need to have, is more people being able to get his message out so that they can have an actual vote and put in an actual vote in a way that they'll feel good about in the years to come.
And Rosario Dawson, your thoughts on Donald Trump, both saying originally, just a few days ago, saying that women should be jailed for having abortions. He's walked it back a little, saying, no, the doctors who give them abortions should be punished.
That's already happening, unfortunately. You know, I think that's one of the sort of red herrings, the fallacies about, you know, about Trump, is that he somehow is making up the divisiveness, that he's somehow creating it, when that's just not true. This has been going on for a long time. Black Lives Matter, the Dreamer movement exists for a reason. And this has been going on in our streets for a really, really long time. And he's been calling Obama out as being a dreamer for years. And that didn't start with him. That started when a picture of Obama with the turban came out of the Hillary Clinton camp, you know? And so, like, there's a real reality about, there's been dirty politics and things that have been going on for a very long time, and they got out of hands. And now you have people like Lindsey Graham going, I support Ted Cruz, which you know he would never want to do, because the Republican Party and the Democratic Party have really lost touch with the people on the ground.
And what about Donald Trump having trouble disavowing David Duke and the Ku Klux Klan, and then retweeting Benito Mussolini, the fascist dictator of Italy?
Well, I mean, again, you're talking about someone who is dividing the country, who's been doing that for a really long time. The fact that he was never brought his feet to fire by going, hey, if you really think that the president is not legally capable of being the president, I wonder if he would have had as much to say about McCain having been born in Panama. But, you know, I really think it's really striking that no one called him out on that. So now you want to be the president of the country that you believe could have hired someone for the job who wasn't legally capable of doing it. Like, so I think there's a lot of insanity. But again, like, he isn't the problem. He hasn't been the problem. There's a lot of stuff that's been going on for many, many years that have gotten out of control, and now he represents that problem.
Thank you for helping us.
You are also the meddler in politics.
Yeah, yeah.
Look at that, I got an extra plug in there.
Yeah.
And there are, some of the liberals got mad at you because you said if it's not Bernie, that you don't know if you'll even vote for Hillary. You said maybe Trump would be better because he'd bring on the revolution.
Well, some of the liberals didn't read the article or see the interview. They just looked at these misleading headlines that the Daily Beast and the Hollywood Reporter and The Hill had put up there saying that I supported Trump. But if you read it or you saw it, I did not say that.
No, we're not thinking you support Trump. We're just wondering whether...
No, but that's what the headline was. So they went off on it and said, how could you say that, blah, 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 blah. And I just said, just look at it, read it. I didn't say that, I didn't say that. And it was really shocking because it shows you how the political atmosphere has gotten whipped into a frenzy with just little bits and pieces taken out of context. I was looking at even the, what they took out of the debates last night, because I didn't see the debates, I was working. And, but then when they did like the top hits of the debates, they would have her like screaming at him, and then you didn't say the answer. You know, right. You don't, so you're getting just a very odd little bits and pieces of things, and I thought that was what was really amazing. Was
so
that
you will vote for Hillary if it's not Bernie?
I'm not even admitting that she's going to get the nomination. I'm not going there. No.
I'm also a Bernie Sanders supporter. I've been saying for months on this show, look, until it's not That's who I'm for. You know, he's putting on the table what I call a New Deal, just like FDR did.
The new, old New Deal.
You pay more in taxes, but look at what you get. You get free
and many
college,
other
free
things.
healthcare. That is a New Deal.
You protect the environment. You don't get connected to Wall Street. You don't take big farm money. You don't take all the money from Monsanto.
But I have also been saying that if the airline cannot board your first choice, eat the chicken. That should be Hillary's slogan, eat the chicken. Are you going to eat the chicken?
I'm a vegetarian.
I see. Well, see, this is...
No, what happened,
is where
what happened was that I was saying, because he said to me, there's some people that aren't going to vote for Hillary, I heard. And I said, well, you know, there's a lot of independents, environmentalists, Green Party, working families that he's activated into the Democratic Party that never would have voted for the Democrat. And they're very principled and very passionate, and you can't just expect them to roll over. You're going to have to give them something if you want them to vote, because they are not the same on the environment. One wants fracking, one doesn't. They're not the same on a lot of things.
You know what, that's...
So, if you want to get me, she's already come up to the $15 minimum wage. That's nice, because she didn't support that.
I mean, in environment, great example. Hillary has an 82% voter rating from the Conservation Society.
I don't care the conservation.
Ted Cruz has 5. That's your choice in this world.
She's been selling fracking all over during Secretary
She's not perfect, but the perfect is not on the menu.
Well, I'm not going to say that I think Bernie Sanders is going to get the nomination. Okay. Don't burst my bubble.
Okay, all right.
But Linda, I hear that from the press that that Arabs and Jews don't often get along. So I don't know if I'm breaking this to you, but Bernie's Jewish. You sure you're okay with it? You're still on his side?
I mean, that's some of the most the ludicrous angles of the media, of being so shocked that Muslim Americans would support a Jewish candidate. And I don't support Bernie Sanders because he's a Jew. I support him because he's a man with principles and values. He's a man of integrity, a man of authenticity, unbought and unsold. He's been saying the same things for 40 years. And this is why I'm attracted to his message. I mean, look, he's a 75-year-old white man. Not exactly the kind of man you think would inspire people like us, but I'm inspired by his vision. I'm inspired by this idea that he thinks we have self-worth, that I shouldn't be settling for less, that our country should have universal health care. There are people in our country who don't have health insurance that are dying because they don't have access to medical services. Understanding that if we were able to create free public colleges, that 38% increase in young brown and black people that would be able to get a college education. I mean, I don't know what's so radical about that. And then I want to say, you know, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm also Palestinian American. Some radical guy shows up and says, hold on a second, Palestinians are human beings, by the way, they deserve dignity and human rights. Wow, you know what I mean? Like, as if that shouldn't be the default position of any presidential candidate. And he's embracing our community. Muslim Americans, Arab Americans, we have high stakes in this election. We're fighting hate. And here's an opportunity for me to vote for something, not against something. Vote for someone, not against someone. And Bernie Sanders has welcomed Arab Americans, Muslim Americans in his campaign unapologetically. He doesn't tell us to be less Muslim, less Palestinian, less of who we are. Bring it. And I'm also a person that's worked on progressive issues for about 15 years. Hiring the federal minimum wage to $15. How radical is that? Impossible, but we did it in New York State, we did it in California, we did it in Seattle. Why is that something that we can't do across the country? And at the end of the day, it's about the people. And Bernie Sanders, trust me, we've hung out with him. He's about the people. He is not about Bernie Sanders. Like, sometimes you want to remind him that he's Bernie Sanders. You know what I mean? And I'm very overwhelmed in the movement and the people that I get to meet in this campaign.
After a student named Ramaz Abdelkader started questioning him about Islamophobia, Sanders invited her on the stage, gave her a hug, then allowed her to speak from the podium.
As an American Muslim student who aspires to change the world, currently majoring in international conflict analysis and resolution major, and I hope to be a human rights attorney. Hearing the rhetoric that's going on in the media makes me sick. Because I, as an individual, I'm constantly trying to raise awareness and make sure that everyone is treated equally in this country. So, to the next president of the United States, what do you think about that?
This is what I think. This is what I think. Let me be very personal here, if I might. I'm Jewish. My father's family died in concentration camps. I will do everything that I can to rid this country of the ugly stain of racism which has existed for far too many years.
Linda Sarsour, and as you said, I mean, he was talking there in Virginia, but Dearborn, the largest Arab American population in the country, voted overwhelmingly for a Jewish democratic socialist.
I mean, it broke down stereotypes that I think should never have existed, that the Arab American and Muslim community wouldn't actually vote for the first Jewish president of the United States, and he's carrying the Muslim vote across the country. I think in New York we might surprise, you know, maybe we won't take it, but we'll surprise the establishment. And I'll tell you, it's not just in Virginia. He was in Tampa. He allowed Muslims to be surrogates and speak at a large rally with about 10,000 people. He's been meeting with people from multiple segments of the Muslim community. He's finally saying, you're part of this our community, you're part of our nation.
Hillary had always been my choice. I'm a feminist. Democratic woman president? Yes, please. But she takes a lot of money from big corporations and banks, the very people she says she's going to stand up to. And look, I accepted it because I saw it as a necessary evil, as the way it is. Every politician takes money from big money ever since it was made legal with Citizens United. It's not right, but it's legal. It's legalized corruption. If all the ball players are taking steroids, then you have to take steroids too to compete, right? I'm not against Hillary. I met someone I have more in common with, and his name is Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is this senator from Vermont who miraculously has not and will not take money from super PACs. Where all the other candidates are getting gigantic sums of money from billionaires in an unspoken but inevitable exchange for favors and influence over policy, Bernie is not for sale. This man is running for president on a platform that is just a giant fuck you to the above-the-law billionaire class who have been controlling government policy with their money and not paying a nickel in taxes through government loopholes they secure with said money. Bernie is running on a platform of overturning Citizens United and making the untouchably rich accountable for their fair share of taxes. You know, so like, all of America's children can have good education and health care, not just the rich. Education and health as a right, not a privilege, not charity, as every American citizen's right.
Being a warrior is about believing in what you are fighting for and holding strong to those convictions. I felt a sense of duty, and I could not in good conscience stay back here in beautiful Hawaii and watch my brothers and sisters in uniform go off into combat. These are people and friends who we never forget and who we strive to honor every day that we are blessed to live and breathe. Bernie Sanders voted against the Iraq War. He understands the cost of war, that cost is continued when our veterans come home. Bernie Sanders will defend our country and take the trillions of dollars that are spent on these interventionist, regime change, unnecessary wars and invest it here at home. The American people are not looking to settle for inches. They're looking for real change. What I saw in Bernie was a heart of aloha. No matter who you are, where you come from in this country, that we are all in this together. My name is Tulsi Gabbard, and I support Bernie Sanders to be our next president and commander-in-chief.
I'm Bernie Sanders, and I approve this message.
So let's talk a little history here. Eisenhower doesn't get enough credit. During Eisenhower's day, your Republican Eisenhower, tax rate for the highest income earners was 90%.
You're right.
And guess what? Right following that, that caused the highest growth period in the 50s and 60s. And it went down to 70%. How many?
4 people.
4 people. The captains of industry, the titans,
So, all right.
were carrying the
You want to go
economy
back
on
to
their
90%.
backs. But even under Reagan, it was 50%. Right now, it's at 39.6%.
Remember, Reagan brought it down all the way to 28%.
Sure, but he started by bringing it down to 50. And then guess what happened? We went into
it
recession.
started north of 7.
We went into recession after Reagan years.
Were rates a lot lower when he left office?
Yes, but as a result, we had no growth.
28%. All right, bottom line. So you don't think 45% is the answer? Are you saying 90%?
I'm saying let's find it somewhere in between. We're not going to get 70%
in between
with
is
this
like
Congress.
in the 70s.
Yeah, but we're not going to get that with Congress. What we're saying is 2 out of 3 Americans think that the top 2% earners, we're talking billionaires, should increase their taxes.
What should it be?
I'd say for the top 2%, 70%. It's probably going to be 60.
Okay, max 70%.
So, Nomi, you're the most unlikely to support Bernie Sanders because you're a Democratic strategist.
Because I'm actually political, because I've worked in politics, gosh. You know, there's a few reasons why I support Bernie Sanders. One being that after the recession, we as a party should have had a moment where we reconfigured everything, where we sat there and said, listen, you know, the past 20 years of the ways that the Democratic Party has worked is not working. We're not winning the House. We're barely winning the Senate, and then we lost the Senate. We're not winning local races. We're not winning state legislatures. Something's not working here. Maybe we should fix this. And we had a recession caused by the big banks that are funding our party. What Bernie Sanders did, and he's been the same guy for 35, 40, his whole entire life, saying the same issues over and over, is he pulled back the curtain on the Democratic Party. He brought to life issues that Democrats say behind closed doors, that elected Democrats that are funded by these special interests say behind closed doors, but they know because they want to get into office that they have to compromise. Well, because of the way this revolution has taken place, and that was really what motivated me a lot, like what you said, seeing people just so moved by his message, is because we have the internet today, because people are able to donate a couple bucks and create a revolution in a couple of months and take on the largest establishment Democrat in possibly the history. I mean, the Clintons are the most funded. They've raised more money than any other candidates in history combined. They have more connections to every single industry across the country, across the world. Now with the Panama Papers, we might find out more. And this man, who's been the same man with virtue, that's it, it's virtue. He's bringing virtue back to the Democratic Party, and he's spreading that message, and he's making it okay for Democrats to say things like, you know, it's okay to be pro-Palestine and pro-Israel. It's okay to meet in the middle. It's okay to talk about universal health care even though our butts were kicked. You know, one of the things that I keep saying about Bernie, people say, oh, he wants to tax everybody, he wants free education. That's not possible. You've got to negotiate from some point. You can't negotiate from the middle. And Hillary Clinton and the triangulation of the party over the past 30 years has only hurt us. There's organizations like Emily's List, which I'm so proud of Bernie Sanders for taking a stand today and profiling the injustice that's going on with Emily's List. Women have felt shamed by not supporting Emily's List. There's about a dozen organizations out there, other women's organizations, that say things like this behind closed doors, that Emily's List only profiles women of color and young women, but they don't give the money to those candidates. They're giving the money to the candidates that are well-funded, that are wealthy, that can reimburse their fund. It's a Ponzi scheme.
We had a clip of you on our show in Colorado after Bernie Sanders' win. Can you talk about the significance of this landslide this weekend? The corporate media hardly paid attention.
Of course.
But it was a sweep, a 3-state sweep. And they were all 3 caucuses. Why does Bernie Sanders do so well in these caucus contests?
Of course. Well, see, Bernie, of course, we see in the media when we had Arizona, when we had the previous elections, that we saw that, you know, there was already this narrative that Bernie was done, right? That the campaign was over. Many in D.C. were asking him to drop out. Bernie has said we're going to continue until June. We're still going to fight for the nomination. And Washington was one of those key states that we wanted to see how we were going to do there. And we thought we were going to do very well. And we absolutely did, not only in Washington, but we also did in Alaska and Hawaii. And I think gives us amazing momentum, not only for our campaign, but for our supporters to continue and to push forward until the end.
I mean, in Washington state, party officials estimated more than 200,000 people participated, which was close to the record set in 2008.
Absolutely. The turnout was absolutely amazing. We were getting reports of, you know, people filling up the caucuses. And one of the things that is really, really amazing about our own supporters is that, you know, Bernie supporters are very, very pumped up. You know, they were very excited about going out to caucus. And it's a lot of young people. It's a lot of new voters. And I think for us, you know, that really gives us an advantage at the caucuses, which it helps, right? It's not only people going to cast their ballot, it's people going in there to rally, to go in one side of your candidate and to really make a difference on how, you know, we can turn out that specific precinct.
Can you talk about the significance of what happened in your state of Arizona? You had people waiting online for, say, 5 hours. Many people ended up leaving, older people. And it turning out the massive cutback on polling places in, well, in the largest city, Phoenix is in Maricopa County, 200 down to 60. They said they were saving money.
It was very unfortunate, I think, for us. I mean, not only as a campaign, I think we don't know what would have happened if it was different, right? But I think for us, and Bernie said it, you know, it really is a form of voter suppression. It is a form of really, you know, disenfranchising so many voters that are so excited to go out. It was a very, very high turnout. And we ended up seeing 2,000 people lined still around midnight.
Let's go for a moment to Bernie Sanders talking about Arizona.
In the United States of America, democracy is the foundation of our way of life. People should not have to wait 5 hours to vote. And what happened yesterday in Arizona is a disgrace. I hope that every state in this country learns from that and learns how to put together a proper election where people can come in and vote in a timely manner and then go back to work.